Prepare yourself for Earthling Entertainment with your hosts, Joe and Ryan.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Earthling Entertainment with Joe and Ryan.
I'm Joe Wakefield.
I'm Ryan.
Hey guys. So, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, what we do here is a little bit of the spooky, a little bit of the creepy. It's so we have a segment called Spooky Stuff where we cover hauntings or cryptozoology, fun stuff like that. Followed by an alien-centric section, which is called Ryan's Disclosure Discussion.
I'm just going to talk UFOs, what's going on, with all the disclosure going on lately. Is it, interdimensional? Is it from another planet? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
All right, and then the latter half of the episode is dedicated to entertainment, whether that be movies, video games, music. Sometimes we play trivia games. Sometimes we have some articles and news stories. Other times we talk about celebrities that are no longer with us. But it's a whole lot of fun, and together, that makes Earthling Entertainment, and we welcome you.
Yes, thank you for listening. We had a good episode last week, and we got a great one for you this week as well.
I do want to say something. Hold on. Last week, I re-listened to the episode, and for whatever reason, it seems like we just had a stumble at the beginning, and we just kept both saying how excited we were.
Well, to be fair, I was, but yeah, after listening to it, I was like,
yeah,
I got in a bit of a loop there.
We have 3 minutes until we start the show officially with spooky stuff, and it's like, I'm excited, and Ryan's like, I'm excited. And then after that, it's like, oh, are you excited? I'm really excited.
Man.
So, super excited about this.
Oh, and
it's important to call yourself out, I think.
It's okay. We got caught in a loop. I think we just
I don't
didn't know what
I
to
was
talk
excited.
about.
Yeah.
We didn't know what to talk about. We were excited. Obviously.
Well, so the beginning of the show, we always kind of have an improv part. So before we jump into spooky stuff, which is obviously, prepared and all the other segments are prepared, we're just like, have a little bit of chat, which is why sometimes it's 10 minutes and other times it's like 2 minutes. It's like, I don't know where to go with this. Let's start spooky stuff.
Right. And I got the story right in front of me. So it's like, I'll just read this.
Yeah. We'll just jump right in. So
not
this
today.
week, no, not today at all, because this week, besides calling us out on being super excited, I do have something to talk about. All right. So, as you guys know, movies occasionally have novelizations of the film. It's become lately that it's mostly young adult books, but they used to have full-on chapter books, 300 pages. I have a Ninja Turtle ones from 1990 where it's like an actual adult book. But the reason why I bring this up is Friday the 13th is a film series that the rights have always been debated for the last 20 years. Ooh, spooky. Recently, it went to the original screenwriter, and Sean Cunningham, the longtime producer of many of the films, no longer has the rights. Now, what this means is the original screenwriter, he owns Voorhees' mom. He doesn't, like, Jason is in that movie, but he just pops out at the end. So the character of Jason's fine, but if you guys remember right, the mask doesn't even show up until number 3. So Jason walking around with a machete and a hockey mask, I don't believe the current rights owner has the rights to that version of the character.
That's ridiculous.
Isn't that weird?
They could dissect it that much on ownership.
Well, because there's a law that basically says an original screenwriter, unless they were a writer for hire. If it was an original play, then you get the rights 30 years later. And the guy who originally wrote Roadhouse is all pissed off because he thinks the new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal came out right before that 30 years. What he's saying is that they were using AI to complete the film in editing while the strikes were going on, and he feels as though they did that so they would be able to finish the film before the rights would revert back to him. Couple problems with this. It's my understanding that original screenwriter was a writer for hire, so he doesn't actually own the original copyright, I don't believe. Also, there's actually nothing illegal about finishing a film with AI, I shouldn't say illegal, against the strike rules. They weren't using actors, they weren't using screenwriters. It was still being negotiated as to how cool that was, but technically didn't break any rules. So this guy's gonna not win that right. But it's an interesting thing. But the reason why I bring all this up, The reason why we started this is because novelizations of horror films, such as
We
Freddy
took
vs.
a long
Jason.
road to that.
I know. Well, I've been thinking a lot about this, buddy.
No, I know you have, and please keep going.
Okay. Well, so New Line, for instance, released the Nightmare on Elm Street books, but they released it as 1, 2, and 3 in one chapter book, and then like 4 and 5 in another chapter book. And then for some reason, Friday the 13th has 1, 2, and 3, two versions of number 3. Then we skip 4 and 5, and then we have the chapter book of 6, and I believe that's all that ever came out. But in the 90s, they had a Camp Crystal Lake Stories, which was a young adult series that lasted, I believe, 4 or 5 books. Then in the 2005-ish time, maybe a little earlier, 2000, we had a series which was just classic Jason. The first one was called Hell Lake. The final one, I believe, was Carnival of Maniacs. There was the Jason strain, and these were all original works rather than they were based on the film as far as the character, but they were original works.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
And Jason X actually had 5 books in the series.
Which I can't believe they did 5 books on Jason X.
They did. The first one was Jason X, and I believe the second one was The Experiment. They have like the Planet of the Beast. They have a bunch of fun ones.
Evil gets an upgrade.
Oh, yeah. Jason X is highly underrated. I love the Friday the 13th series.
No,
All
me
right,
too. Me
but
too.
The reason why I started all of this is because the rights issue, like I mentioned, is why a lot of old Friday the 13th merchandise is so expensive and hard to find. And these books on eBay, minimum $60 a piece, maximum $650.
That is a lot of money for a book.
For a paperback chapter book. I was talking to someone on eBay.
That's not that old.
Yeah, well, I've been trying to collect them.
Right.
Yeah, I've been trying to collect them. So I got one guy who was mad at me. He was just like, it's been out of print for 20 years. And it's like, I didn't want to be a dick, but I'm like, how many people beyond me are trying to get these right now? It might be worth a lot of money, but are they going like hotcakes? You know what I mean? Like if I check a month from now, are all these listings going to be sold? So I've been trying to like negotiate, and I've been getting them for like 20 or 30 bucks, and I've only managed to get a hold of 2.
I've been holding on to these for a special trade, like trying to get something for my collection.
Well, like most collectors, I have this theory that if I kicked the bucket, my wife or my kid could sell all these great collectibles and make millions, when realistically it'll be in an estate sale or a box that they're just going to give away because no one's going to look at this Friday the 13th chapter book like anything more than it is, bargain bin quarter book. But you know what? Little do they know that book is worth $160 on eBay. In other words, if I die, see how much shit see how much things are worth.
And you never know because, these things could go up in price or who knows, they could go down in price. You never know. Like people in the future might not give a shit.
That's true. But like we talked about last week with the Universal monsters, Frankenstein, and all them being the classic monsters, I do believe that the 80s monsters like Freddy and Jason are ingrained enough in society that unless there was an apocalypse or society changed completely, they will be remembered at least another 100 years.
That would make sense for me. But 2, of course, you're always going to see it. I'll bet you, you're probably right. It'll be the classics like Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, and shit like that. Like
Chucky.
Chucky. Chucky. Yeah,
Chucky. Bride of Chucky.
Bride of
Son
Chucky was
of
my
Chucky.
favorite.
Cult of Chucky. Seed of Chucky. Chucky everywhere. Just chuck off.
Just chuck right off. I'll just go chuck myself.
Right. That is a decent show. It was weird how they split the season up because seasons are so short now. They're only 8 episodes and they still split it up into 2 parts. And the second part hasn't started yet, I don't think.
They only had a couple episodes. I mean, it ended on a pretty crazy note. I mean, it was a good show.
It was a good show. So Chucky, I believe, is still coming out. So check that out. Anyways, what we're going to do now is jump into our section, Spooky Stuff.
Spooky stuff.
So the thing here is, guys, normally we have one big thing that we talk about. We had the Kelpie or the Neclavy, which that's Ryan's favorite.
Oh, yeah.
This time, I wanted to include a bunch of shorter ones that really weren't long enough to be a segment in of itself, because while looking for these, you have to understand, I obviously come across a lot of fun little stories, but if it's only about a paragraph of information, there's only so much you could talk about. So that's why this time it's going to be our first ever Tales from the Spooky Stuff Vault. Thank you very much.
Spooky stuff.
The Tale of Alyssa Day. A beautiful young girl was courted by a young man that presented her with a rose and convinced her that he loved her. One day, when she went to meet him on the banks of the river where beautiful roses grow, he waited until she was lost admiring the view. That is when he picked up a rock and repeatedly hit her in the head with it while whispering,
as one does,
"All beauty must die." He then placed a single rose between her teeth and pushed her dead body into the river. No one found her dead body after that. To this day, people claim that her ghost is seen walking on the banks of the river amongst the roses.
All right, so if this is true, that guy's just a psychopath. All beauty must die. Like that's some creepy ass lines.
This is a really fucked up story, Joe. Where the hell did you find it?
The internet.
My God, I wonder. Like, man, that was just petrifying. So that was like not even a ghost story. That was just a really fucked up dude.
That was just a murder.
That was just a straight. Here's a murder story.
Well,
but there was a ghost at the end. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's right.
so
That's
she's a
right.
ghost.
She's a ghost now. But
I wonder if she shows up with the rose in her mouth. Right? You're just like walks up and you're like ooh, and then you just go to Academy and just dance.
My God,
just
dude.
Straight Addams Family.
We are starting this dark. Academia.
Yeah, they vary. The tales that we're about to unfold, they definitely vary.
Okay, yeah, because wow.
All right, so hold on. That's one for murder.
That is one for murder and one for ghost.
Excellent.
So that's what we've got. All right. The Tale of the Leaping Lawyer. Sooner or later, Toronto residents hear the tale of a lawyer who had a peculiar fondness for running full bore into his office windows to demonstrate how strong they were.
Why was he selling the fucking windows?
This practice caught up with him eventually as he crashed into a window and went sailing to his death. This hobby was actually practiced by Gary Hoy, a senior partner in an area law firm with an office on the 24th floor. On July 9th, 1993, Hoy made his signature tackle against the window to impress some visiting law students. The pane finally broke and sent him plummeting to his death. In a eulogy, managing partner Peter Lawyers, funny that he's a lawyer, called Hoy one of the best and brightest at the firm.
Okay, so don't hire those lawyers because one of their brightest members is jumping through windows to his death. And it wasn't like he was sad. He was just like, look at this, pia! I'm crazy guy, lawyer man. Hire me. Look at this, pia!
I actually heard of this story. This one went viral a while back, and this is true. He basically just did it, to look cool. Because he was an older guy, that was the kind of environment he was trying to set, right? So he liked to scare them. Because it would scare the shit out of them. They would just see him running. They're like, oh my God!
Trickster. It's like the office clown, man. Eventually they go out the window.
Now he's the office pancake.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, he's probably more like a dropped slushy.
Like dust.
No, not dust. People are full of goo.
That's right. Yeah, just...
I guess it depends on how old he is. Maybe he would be like a vampire from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He just goes, he's dust. This is cheap on effects. They just go.
Too bad he didn't have his suction cups. He could have held on to the side of the building like Suction Cup Man.
Wouldn't it be weird if that's how he found out he was in the Matrix? Like, we're all laughing, but he woke up and he's just like, I will save the rest of you despite you making fun of me.
Like he does like the bendy.
I am Neo.
Right. He like like the Earth becomes like a trampoline, like how it did for Neo when he fell and shit like that. And it's just like, oh, so this is a simulation.
Don't jump through windows. It's not a smart idea.
Yeah. Nope. I would never.
So, all right,
Yeah.
that's one for dumbass.
Yeah, that is totally one for Darwinism right
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Darwin's. The Tale of the Boggy Creek Monster. According to Atlas Obscura, the Boggy Creek Monster of Fawk in
What?
Fawk. That's what it's called. Fouke. Fawk is Arkansas's version of the Sasquatch. He's commonly accepted to be around 7 or 8 feet tall and covered in hair. Legend says that he roams the creeks of rural Arkansas. He was first spotted in 1834 when people reported seeing a wild man. These days, after people claim to spot the Boggy Creek Monster, the sightings are documented on official Boggy Creek Monsters website. He has been the subject of 5 feature-length films, including 1972's The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Okay, so for a second there, I was going to be like, this is just Bigfoot. Like, why are we making this a separate thing? And I guess it's because the state registers this particular Bigfoot, and the movie's specifically about the Boggy Creek. So yeah, okay, I guess this could be separate.
I agree. So we got one for basically a different kind of Bigfoot. Like,
Do you want to just say Bigfoot or do you want to say monster?
Well, remember we did the Australian Bigfoot before? So like
the
there's
Yowie.
that, yeah.
Yeah, but the Yowie was actually shaped different. It was shorter. It had different feet. This is just Bigfoot, but he happens to be like, it would be like, oh, he's a human from Tennessee or he's a human from Iowa. It's like, yeah, they're both humans.
Well, and there was like another one, like the skunk one from
The
Florida.
skunk ape.
Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm saying. It's almost like Pokemon in different regions.
Well, well, since they all have different names, I'm going to just put one for monster.
One for monster. I
One
like
for
it.
monster.
The Tale of the Candle Cult. In 2009 Peru, numerous murder cases appeared where the victims' bodies were drained of all the fat they had in their bodies. These murders were performed by a cult that would take all the fat and turn it into candles. They would later burn those candles so they can perform satanic rituals. Few of the members of that cult were later captured, and they admitted that they were selling and trading the human fat to a trading ring that would use the human fat to make perfumes, anti-aging creams, etc.
All right, so I have a few thoughts on this. One, how badass is that? Like, if you're gonna be a Satan worshiper, having a human candle, I mean, like, you're putting forth the extra effort. Is all I'm saying. As far
So this is murder as well, because they're murdering people for their fat.
did it say they murdered them? Maybe they just like had
Numerous murder cases
Oh, okay.
appeared where victims' bodies were drained of all the fat.
Okay, fair enough.
So we
Yeah,
got murder.
So it's murder. Well, that's even I don't support it, but that's even more metal, right? Like if you're a Satan worshiper and you're like, I murdered this guy and turned him into a fucking candle, bro.
Because why not?
Cause Satan and stuff.
Like, that is the ultimate nihilism. Like, people are only good for candles.
Fucking candles. The brightest thing in their lives are when they're dead. Ooh,
That's pretty fucking deep, Joe.
I know.
Deep and dark.
Yeah.
Dark and
But as
deep.
far as them selling the fat, the rendered fat to perfume companies, that's a real thing. Because I don't know if you realize this, but to manufacture perfume, they have to have a putrid smell in there with all the flowery and other scents. I don't know why. There's some chemical reason in our brains. The same reason why I think we like truffles. But the point is, there's a film called Perfume: Story of a Murderer.
Colon.
Yeah, well, it doesn't actually say colon.
I know.
It's a really good movie. It's a period piece, and it's this really creepy tale of a perfume maker who gets obsessed with this girl so much so, and I believe it's an accident. He might actually just kill her. I don't know. But then he turns her into perfume, and then it continues.
God dang.
Yeah. The Hans Gruber's in it. What's his name again? The gentleman who died. He's Snape from Harry Potter.
I don't know. Oh, man. Gosh.
It's funny that we're drawing a blank. He's
I
an
know,
amazing
drawing a blank.
actor.
Yeah, I love him. He was in Dogma.
Yeah. Well, anyways, there you go, man.
Yep.
Go on. Move on to the next one. And I will look up the gentleman's name, which I can't believe I forgot.
Me either. I'm ashamed. The Tale of the Body Under the Bed. In 2010, guests at a budget lodge in Memphis were horrified to discover they had been sleeping above the body of Sony Millbrook, a missing person. Fabric softener had been stuffed into the ceiling tiles to try and mask the smell. At least 3 other occupants had also rented the room since Millbrook's disappearance.
That just goes to show you how well those dryer sheets work.
They do smell nice. They're quite nice.
Alan Rickman. It was Alan Rickman.
Thank you.
All right, continue.
A court eventually convicted Millbrook's boyfriend, Lakeith Moody, of the crime. That was my best I could do.
That
was
wasn't
my
bad.
Thank you.
Wasn't bad.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So that is another for murder.
Oh, yeah. Hold on a sec. Where's my pen? Ryan?
Shit, I don't know. Here, use mine.
Another for murder.
Yes.
What was the candle? Candle would be murder too.
Yeah, the candle was 100% murder.
All right. So, dude, I want to say that murder seems to be winning. It looks like murder has 3, 1 ghost, 1 dumbass, and 1 monster.
And it's effed up when you think about how many stories I've seen. So many stories on TikTok and stuff like that, and shorts and reels and stuff where you'd be surprised how many
bodies are found.
Bodies are found.
Well, it's true, but most of the time they're found very quickly.
Not a lot.
They're usually found because of the smell, man.
Yeah.
That's why this one. That's why this one
imagine.
is kind of a crazy story because it's how many people showed up.
Dude, have you ever smelt like dead, like rotten meat? It's so gross. So I couldn't even imagine.
Well, it's like a chemical reaction in our brain to be repulsed by it. And then I believe I heard somewhere that the actual dead human, we even have a more chemical reaction because it triggers our brain to be like, danger, dead human. Ah,
that makes sense.
I mean, I have never looked it up, so we're going to go with that is absolutely 100% scientifically true.
Proven here on Earthling Entertainment.
Yes. With big quotes. Proven. Creepy. So apparently it can happen, guys. So that urban legend you heard of a body being in the mattress, like in American Horror Story or under the bed, just remember, hey, it happened somewhere.
Or at your next door neighbor's house so that they can keep collecting the pension money or the Social Security money. That crap happens all the time. It's effed up.
Dark.
It's dark. It gets dark.
Well, I guess we should move on to our next tale.
The Tale of the Wicked Witch of Monroe. Hannah Cranach gained a reputation as a witch in the 19th century when her husband died by mysteriously falling off of a cliff. Locals reportedly believed that she had bewitched him. People also believed that she would cast spells on people she didn't like.
Fuck you, Betty.
Fuck you, Betty. Hannah lived to the age of 77, but right before she died, she asked to be carried down to the cemetery in her coffin by foot, not wagon.
All right, guys, I'm going to be very specific. If you use a wagon, I swear to God, no, carry me.
I'm paying someone to make sure that happens. They will kick your ass. After her death, the people of Monroe tried to wheel her coffin down the hill, but were unable. The coffin kept falling off, so they were forced to carry it. See? She made it.
Yeah. Curses mean something.
When the townspeople returned to her home, it was found to be engulfed in flames, sealing Hannah's reputation of witchcraft.
While that does make sense, if everyone thought she was a witch and she died and then they left the house, it seems like there might be a townsfolk who are like, I'm going to burn her fucking house down. So I don't know if that's a sign if she was a witch or just the people being afraid that she was a witch. What do you think?
I think it's definitely her fault that he jumped off the cliff. I don't know if she necessarily bewitched him. She probably just drove the poor man to do it. He was just like, that I can't take this. I can't take this woman anymore.
Look, there's a hot take from a recently divorced man. She's a witch. No, she's a
No.
bitch.
Dude, I am
just in that case, Ryan.
I'm just throwing it out there that's a distinct possibility that people maybe a while back would just be like, oh, witch, and they didn't really understand. No, mental issues. She drove me fucking crazy.
You can't help but look at history through the lens of your own experience. You've heard it here from Earthling Entertainment.
So I'm going to chalk this one up to just myth. This is just myth.
It's not a myth. This woman existed. This totally happened.
But I'm saying like the theory
being
of her
a witch?
Right. The guy committed suicide because he couldn't stand her no more. She made this big, thing like, you have to carry by foot.
So the wheels, either she had an accomplice that was making sure that the coffin kept falling off the wagon, or it is a strange coincidence.
I think a strange coincidence.
All right, and then the house burning down was my idea of just being a random neighbor.
I'm going to go ahead and say, probably some like a religious person who thought they were doing the Lord's work. Like, I'm going to burn this witch's house down now that she's gone.
All right, guys, you've heard it first. We have solved it. We've solved this where is it? About 200 years? It's really old murder. We've done it.
They should have just tuned in.
We should be cops.
I know. We should be cops. I would make a great cop. I wouldn't be able to chase anybody down, for the record, but other than that, I'd be fair, strict but fair.
All right, let's move on to the next tale.
The tale of the killer chef.
Gordon Ramsay is a dick.
Gordon Ramsay.
Actually, never met the man. He might be great. But this guy, he's a killer.
You fucking burnt it. In 2009, October, this LA professional chef got into an argument with his wife and ended up duct taping her hands, feet, and mouth so she could not escape him. He left her alone for a long while. She died by the time he came back. To convince everyone that she left him without notice so no one can suspect her death, he fake texted himself from her phone. He even dumped her 105-pound body into a drum of boiling water and cooked his wife's dead body for 4 days until nothing but her skull was left.
Num 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 num. Wife.
Person stew. No one believed.
Oh my God! If you made a person stew out of a man named Stu, you would make stew.
It's so damn literal.
Tender.
No one believed his lies and reported the woman missing. When police...
I don't know, man. You're kind of an asshole. I think you killed her.
When police started suspecting veins of his wife's death in 2011, he tried jumping off a cliff to end his life, but ended up surviving with severe injuries. He is now sentenced to serve 15 years to life in jail.
Yeah, that makes sense. You should probably not accidentally kill someone. Granted, I know it's an accident, but if you do accidentally kill someone, your next step shouldn't be cooking them. Right. Especially if your profession is cooking.
I was gonna say it's a little obvious, and then it's like you just imagine like I know I'm semi-quoting a Bill Burr bit, but it's just like, okay, that's it. They're on to me. I'm gonna jump. They're never gonna catch me, and this is it. No, I'm not gonna have to deal with any. Oh, okay, I'm falling. I'm about to hit the ground. Ah! This is horrible. Ah! They're like, you're going to jail, sir. Fuck off! It's just, that's what you deserve, fucker.
Oh man! All right, so I'm gonna put that one for murder.
That is 100% murder, and a little, and one for Darwinism, I think too, just for the jump.
Yeah, I'm not gonna write that. All right.
No, okay. But either way, good. Justice served by himself. I kind of like it.
Justice was served. His wife.
Get it? Justice is served. He's a chef.
Yeah, that was my joke.
The tale of the Maine hermit. For decades, people who vacation in central Maine's North Pond area were puzzled by items that would go missing. Batteries and food from cabins, flashlights from camping tents. Rumors spread that the permanent fixture of the area would. Sorry, let me start that over. Rumors spread that a permanent fixture of the area would forage for sustenance and supplies. They were right. For 27 years, Christopher Knight lived alone in the woods, keeping tabs on hikers, canoeists, and other temporary residents of the grounds. When he was confronted by a game warden in 2013, Knight admitted he was responsible for an average of around 40 robberies a year. Despite the likely protestations of family and friends who dismissed tales of a hermit lurking somewhere in the woods, his identification proved that someone had been watching and waiting for nearly 3 decades.
Okay, so that guy gets an A for committing. Definitely. Like, he really didn't want to deal with people. He's like, I'm just going to live in the woods. Take what I need.
But I'm going to get a little dark here. You know, he was watching at, all times. So, if people were skinny dipping or anything, we were just talking Friday the 13th.
How often do people skinny dip in real life? Was that just
And this is Maine.
Was
so
that
it'd
just
be cold,
70s
right?
or the movies?
That's right. So this is Maine too. So you're right. My bad. It'd be cold. So
I don't know if that matters. I think if you grow up in an area, you're used to that area's temperature, because I've seen like people from Alaska just jumping in a lake going like, yeah, chilling.
I'm just saying this guy sounds like he's right out of a Stephen King book, because everything happens in Maine in Stephen King.
That's true. But you just want to make it creepy. You want to have like this weird sex scene in the tent, and there's silhouettes of the people getting at it, and this guy just standing outside the bush going,
whacking
yeah.
it, just wanking it.
I like to watch the campers.
Well, I'm just saying, for 30 years, this man was out there by himself, watching people, knowing when they're leaving, so he can go into their tent and grab
yes,
whatever
but there's
he
no
could.
reports of him being a rapist.
I'm not calling him a rapist. I said peeping Tom.
Peeping Tom. Well, did you ever think of the possibility that maybe this individual is asexual or non-sexual or one of those other categories that does not involve wanting people?
That's true. He could
maybe he's just super into throw pillows.
And I mean, he just obviously, like it says, grabbing for sustenance and supplies. It was innocent, but I mean, it was just thievery. So I guess just one for thievery. That's all it was.
I live off squirrels and stolen Oreos. Yeah, I'm gonna put 1 for dumbass.
I guess.
Well, we don't want different categories for each thing, because then there would be no winner. It would all just be 1 vote for each story.
All right, toss it in dumbass. That makes sense.
Thank you. All right.
Simplicity.
Next story.
The Tale of the Bloody Pit. In the 24-year-long construction of the Hoosac Tunnel in western Massachusetts, approximately 200 men died. Death was so associated with the tunnel that it was actually nicknamed the Bloody Pit, according to Atlas Obscura. After a particularly gruesome explosion in either 1867 or 1868, 13 miners were trapped inside the tunnel. The other workers assumed that the miners had died, but eventually it was discovered that the miners had built a raft to combat the flooding, and eventually died due to poisonous gas inhalation. It's said that these 13 miners haunted the tunnel for years, moaning and briefly appearing as ghosts.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, that is one of the most horrifying things in the world, is the idea of being trapped in a tunnel. Wasn't like the Chilean, it was in Chile. There was like 33 guys recently who were trapped, and they lived for like 60 days or something ridiculous.
I followed that story. That was so heavy.
Oh, dude. So being trapped underground.
Can you imagine the smell?
It'd be one.
Everybody has to poop.
That is not my first.
That was mine.
That was your first thought.
Yes. They're all stuck. They obviously had to pick a spot, an area, and they all had to go to it to poop.
Why would that be your first concern?
Because it's gonna happen. And it's a big thing. And it could cause
living
disease.
in the pitch black dark and like
and you have to worry about health. That's a health hazard.
And there's echoing. Oh my god. It's like,
Horrible.
don't step in the poop corner, guys.
Dude, don't step in the poop corner.
All right. Those 13 men had a raft, but you know what else they had? They had water. Water they could bend over for, drop their jaws. And then they didn't have to worry about the poop corner. Got to watch out for the poop corner. We don't want to go down that road.
Don't want to go down that road. That
All
road's
right.
smelly.
So apparently, Ryan's biggest fear about being buried in a mine is the poop corner.
Oh my God, the poop corner. It's gonna stink. It's gonna be. Oh my God, it's like hell every day. Just waking up to that smell and
I
darkness.
don't know, dude.
And
I think hell would be the darkness in general, and then I would lose track of time, and it's like, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. Wouldn't you be kind of pissed, right? Like you come out and it's been 33 days, and you'd be like, I've been down there for 14 years. And they're like, it's been 33 days. Like, not even a year?
dude,
It felt like such a long time.
like I said, that I read a story about a woman who was she did an experiment. She took like a year in a tunnel with no daylight. She thought it had only been a few months.
Yeah, didn't you mention that last
I
week?
think I did. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's crazy what the
when
mind.
the sense deprivation, what is it called?
Yeah,
Sensory deprivation. That's some weird. I mean, besides sending 11 to the upside down, it could really fuck with your head.
So I will say this is a ghost story, definitely, because at the end it says they haunt this tunnel, these 13 miners.
All right, I'll give it a ghost story too. All right, that's another one for ghost.
The Tale of the Buckley Children. It is well known how It is a well-known Halloween myth that two children of the Buckley family, Susan and John, beheaded their own mother as a joke on Halloween.
It was hilarious.
Hilarious.
Murder.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, I'm just gonna write murder right now. Continue.
Murder. The story goes that the kids decided to get a dummy and beheaded it to seem cool and spooky on Halloween. But the Buckley children had other plans. They thought beheading their own mother would be more fun, so they did that in front of the whole neighborhood. Soon, when people realized that they did, in fact, behead a real human, their mother, and that it had not been a Halloween decoration dummy, they immediately called the police. The children disappeared way before anyone's suspicion.
All right. So was the mom drugged and passed out? Like, how are you able to cut someone's head off and have the neighbors be like, oh, look at that dummy. It's screaming. It's so lifelike. Like, how far does it go? Like, she had to already be like, I don't know, tranked or something, right?
I guess, right? They could have drugged, if they're willing to chop off her head, nothing's off the board, right? I mean, you could totally, you could drug her. You could, maybe she was an alcoholic,
Well,
it was Halloween night.
Maybe it was like an omen situation. Like the kids were just like, little devil babies. And they were just like, do it, mother. Let us cut off your head in front of the crowd. And she's like, it's all for you, Damien. It's all for you.
That was a creepy fucking scene in that movie. I still never saw the original Omen.
It's good.
I
If you like they're making a new one. There's a prequel coming out. It's called The First Omen. Yeah, it's coming out very soon this year.
don't know why, but like a lot of these new like renditions of The Exorcist or like stuff like that, they always seem to miss the mark. Like I heard like the last Exorcist like was called like the worst one out of all of them. They somehow managed to make like a terrible one last year.
Well,
That's what I heard.
I also heard it didn't go over very well, for sure.
But I didn't see it.
Well, I didn't see it either. But I don't think it could have been as bad as the second one, because The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, is famously very, very, very bad. And then Exorcist 3 apparently is really good, like really good. Then The Exorcist, which is a prequel. This is funny. So they have, I think it's Damnation or Domination or something like that. And it says prequel to The Exorcist. And then they have another title that is just Exorcist something else. Anyways, it's the same movie. They were cut, like one by the director, one by the producer. Or there was two directors and they shot different parts of the movie, but used some of the same footage. Like it's the same movie, but they released it twice. It is Pokemon Red and Blue. And it's got Skarsgård in it,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, which one?
The one from Andor. The older one, the father of them all. And
Okay,
he's
yeah.
also the Harkonnen guy from Dune.
I was gonna say, aren't there 3 Skarsgårds in the
Well, the gentleman I'm referring to is the father, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
he has
yeah.
a bunch of kids. Like Bill Skarsgård is
Yes,
it. He was in the new Crow. Did you see the new Crow trailer?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have much interest in it, but it's nothing against it. I honestly didn't even think The Crow was that great, and
Go to hell. No,
I
fuck
know
you. No,
that's
no,
a
no, no, no,
terrible
no,
thing
no.
to
No,
say.
really, Ryan, you're fired from this podcast.
Yeah, well, don't
No,
get me
no, no,
wrong.
no.
I
The
like
Crow, the Crow is like bathing in chocolate and vanilla and having boobs everywhere.
Just hear me out. I think what happened to me was I never got
If
the
you
chance.
like boobs.
I never got the chance to see The Crow, and then as I grew up into metal, I got to know a lot of people who obviously freaking idolized the film, and they blew it up so much for me. You know what I mean? Like I was like
They
told
made
like
it
what,
seem like it was the holy
and then
grail of movies.
and then I sat and watched it, and I was like, yeah, that was good.
All right. I won't fault you for that, because when movies get blown up as like this is the biggest, greatest thing ever, it is really hard to not,
Like I remember my guitarist, remember Mike West? He shout out to Mike West. He used to dress up as the Crow every year, and I remember I never even saw it. Like the
he
first,
loved The Crow.
yeah, I never even saw it like for years until after like I had already seen him dressed up, and I was just like, oh yeah, you're the Crow from that movie, and I never saw it. So then I finally saw it, and I was like, oh yeah, it was good.
Well, the new movie looks good. It's just not as gothic stylistic. It's got its own style, and I don't know if I'm going to love it, but I'll give it a shot. There's 4 Crow movies, and some of them get real silly. So this being a 5th one, even though the character is named Eric Draven, the same as the original, I'm just going to treat it like it's another sequel, and I'm good.
Well,
It'll be fine.
I'm gonna look at it the same way I look at franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, etc., where it's like it's gonna age with the younger audience. So it's like you have to accept that if you don't like it, it's honestly really not for you. If you're into it, awesome. But if you're not, they're trying to get a new audience.
Well, you can't bitch too much because it's literally been 30 years, and it's like eventually movies get remade. You know what? They remade Mean Girls, and that came out when we were in high school, and I'm like, oh wow, Mean Girls. Why would you remake that? That was 20 years. There's 20 years in between
Exactly.
the remake, which is
Think
a
about
musical
technology.
for some reason.
Like life is totally different for girls now. Like
Ryan, tell me how
for
life
everybody.
is. Ryan, tell me how life is for girls now.
Not great. Everybody's suffering from depression because of Instagram and everything else and comparing ourselves to beautiful people, and everybody has to be an influencer, and you have to be skinny and wonderful and funny.
Okay, well, that does feel a lot like how it was when we were in high school, just minus social media.
Yeah, but now you're on camera and it's all fucking can be saved and spread around, and god damn it. It's honestly it's tough out there.
It's tough out there for a kid.
It's a jungle out there.
All right, next tale, Ryan.
The Tale of the Polybius. Vintage video gamers have long traded stories about a coin-operated arcade game circa early 1980s Portland that had strange effects on its players. The game, titled Polybius, was alleged to have prompted feelings of disorientation, amnesia.
Polybius, maybe?
Polybius?
Yeah.
Amnesia, game addiction, and even suicide. The machine's cabinet was said to be painted entirely black, and it was rumored that the stern-looking men would sometimes visit arcades to collect information from the machine before disappearing.
Here come the men in black.
That was what I was going to say. Was it a CIA experiment spun off from MK Ultra? The psychoactive drug study conducted on unsuspecting subjects?
Thank you, Ryan.
Beat you to it.
Yeah, you did. You did. This is a fun thing, and this is based on reality. It was Beaverton, I believe, Oregon, that this happened. It's funny. Ernest Cline, the author of Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, wrote a book in between those 2 books called Armada. And they talk about this game in there and how it was the government like messing with people to try to basically figure out if they were candidates to be drone pilots or commanders in a war against the alien race that we didn't know much about. But the reason why I bring it up is this is not the first time. I thought he made it up in the book. So when I read and I looked it up, and it was like, wow, this really happened, or supposedly really happened.
Right.
But it's totally believable that a government comes in. It's an arcade. Arcades are big. It's the 80s. They put an arcade in there that does some weird subliminal messaging. They see how certain people react, and then they take away the game. That's another thing. It was there apparently like 2 weeks or whatever, and they took it away, and no one ever heard of it after that.
So what if they had like some kind of crazy like pump system into the joystick, and it pumped out a bit of LSD? If this is MK Ultra, that's what they were using, that, and so that means so you can trip just from it getting into your pores.
I mean, yeah, no, you can definitely be if it touches your skin, but
so then they would monitor. They probably had a camera mounted, right? So when they came there, they were probably just collecting the tapes of the video footage. So they were probably examining, if this was MK Ultra, they were examining like their eyes, like how the eyes dilate when you begin to hallucinate. Maybe what is it that the person pays attention to on the screen? Like, you know what I mean? They're maybe it was a study, because they dove into LSD hard. There's a lot of stuff on this. This is a huge rabbit hole.
Oh, totally. And it wasn't just LSD. There's a lot of the experiments they did. They, like with the ones like Clockwork Orange style, where it's holding up your eyelids and showing you pictures. So I think that the chances of this being more of a visual stimuli of, checking if they can give people seizures or cause triggers or emotions through like visual. I don't know if there was actually a drug administered from the joystick. It's a fun theory, and you might be right.
It was just something that popped in my head.
I think they're like messing with you, like with colors and lights and stuff like that.
I guess so. But like, yeah, it's interesting. So it was like a form of weaponry. Maybe they were seeing if like, if we present this kind of, effect, like could we like disorient like the enemy if we were able to like flashbang them with something like this in a way? Like, I wonder. I don't know. What could we call that one?
I put 1 for Men in Black.
Perfect.
All right. Next, is it the final one?
Let's see. Looks like it, yeah.
All right. Here's the final tale of the Spooky Stuff Vault.
The Tale of the Evil Hour. La Mala Hora, which translates to the evil hour, is an entity that you don't want to run into on a dark road. Legend says that at first, it appears as a ball of black energy, constantly moving and changing its size and shape. If you look at it, it will drive you insane and will slowly kill you.
Like a dick.
Jerk. At other times, it appears
it's kind of like it sucks out your energy. Like I'm imagining a video game boss of just floating orb that just sucks out your soul.
Slowly.
Like TV.
That's why they call it programming. At other times, it appears as a scary-looking woman. It's said that if you see her at a crossroads, you or someone in your family will die.
All right, so I'm going to put witch.
Or
it turns into a woman, and I'm going to put witch.
Which it is.
All right, or we could put ghost if you want ghost.
I was in between. I'm in between.
So how about we put 1 for witch, 1 for ghost?
All right, so who's the winner?
All right, guys, we have 1 for Men in Black, 2 for witches, 1 for monsters, 2 for dumbasses, 3 for ghosts, and 6 for murder.
Looks like it's a murdery section of the vault.
There's a lot of crows. Enough that we call it murder.
Whoa, I just learned what that meant.
Yeah, which is why 2 crows hanging out, that's an attempted murder.
Earthling Entertainment special report! So it turns out a new live-action Popeye movie is in the works. For all you Popeye fans out there. I can't tell you the last time I heard someone say, yo, let's talk about Popeye. So, the Robin Williams one was good. So, yeah. Popeye movie. Earthling Entertainment special report, yeah!
Ryan's disclosure discussion. It's about aliens and stuff.
27 years since the Phoenix Lights incident, Arizona is still a hotbed for UFO activity. This comes to us from 12news.com. March 13th, 1997 is a day thousands of Arizonians will never forget. Phoenix. It was a day 27 years ago that thousands of people in Arizona will remember for the rest of their lives. On March 13th, 1997, in case we haven't driven it home enough.
Yeah, March 13th, 1997. Hold on.
March 14th, 1997.
Many Valley residents reported witnessing mysterious lights and objects moving across Arizona's skies. Hundreds of people called National UFO Reporting Center to describe the lights as they passed overhead.
I mean, this was crazy. This was all over the news. It was a big deal.
This should have been the smoking gun. I always said this is one of my favorite stories.
I mean, if anybody here who studies UFOs doesn't know about this incident, I'd say you're just starting.
There's video.
There is video.
There's clear video, and you can even see the outline of the craft.
It's insane. But, hey, I'm not, maybe it's not aliens. Maybe it's not extraterrestrials. Maybe it's U.S. government. Maybe it's people from another dimension. But the lights happened. These happened.
And they were silent, and they just slowly, just almost just like blatantly like, hey,
yeah,
we're here.
They're a bunch of steampunk blimps from an alternate reality. That's what I think. But continue.
I dig that. I like steampunk. Residents described seeing orbs of light appearing in a V-shaped formation, sometimes hovering in one place for several minutes or hours at a time. The event would become known worldwide simply as the Phoenix Lights. Fife Symington, Arizona's governor at the time, revealed in 2007 that he witnessed one of the UFOs during the 1997 event. Symington said in an episode of UFO Hunters that the U.S. military would not give him information on the bizarre lights. In 2018, Kurt Russell revealed to Jimmy Kimmel that he saw the lights that evening when flying into Sky Harbor Airport.
Okay, so I know he's a celebrity, so not everyone's gonna take him seriously, but this is somebody who's just like, no, dude, I'm famous. So people should listen to the fact that I say things, and I say I saw aliens. I
Kurt
trust
Russell.
That's Snake Plissken, bro. He escaped from New York and L.A. A lot of people say L.A. wasn't as good as New York, but I saw L.A. first, and I was a kid at the time, and I thought it was great because Bruce Campbell was in it. But yes,
That's what's up. And he also the thing. That's
Yeah.
like my favorite film of my
The Thing?
Oh, dude.
Oh, you know what's so sad is when they made the newer thing, the 2000 thing, because it was actually a prequel to the first thing. So it would have worked great because they actually made practical effects. They had robots. They did. And then the director, I guess, last minute was just like, looks like shit. Let's CGI over it all.
The U.S. Air Force said the lights were likely military flares dropped during a training exercise at the Barry Goldwater Air Force Range. According to the Arizona Republic, the strange phenomenon has since been the subject of multiple investigations, documentaries, and has served as the inspiration for multiple horror films. Out of all 50 states, Arizona is number 7 for the highest reports of UFO sightings in the nation.
That's pretty good. That's pretty high.
Yeah, according to recent data from the National UFO Reporting Center. Since 1974, the center has gathered information from across the world on unknown lights and objects in the sky. More than 170,000 reports have been processed by the center, with almost 5,000 of those reports coming from right here in Arizona.
Right here. It's not right here. We're in Michigan. Right?
Yeah, we're in Michigan. I know we got a lot too, though.
It's true. We do. Great Lakes, man. Bodies of water. They love it. The aliens love it.
Aren't there a lot of sightings in the Upper Peninsula?
Oh yeah.
It's darker up there. I imagine it'd be easier to see the stars.
It
Pretty.
is.
It's pretty.
Less light pollution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
joke. I
that's
wish
good.
we could all do a holiday where we just agree to turn off all the lights.
It's easier just to go up north.
It is.
Yeah.
Recently, the center released an interactive map that shows all reported sightings across the world. Users can click on individual dots on the map to see information about the report, including the date and description of the sighting. Some reports even include video and photos of the sighting.
Yeah, because there's a billion witnesses, a billion photos, a billion videos. There is downright proof. But, even the governor sees it. Everyone sees it. And then no one cares. No one cares, Ryan. Aliens exist. We all saw them. No one cares.
It like I said, I remember this was probably the story that really dove me into the subject because it's undeniable. The videos you see, it's so grainy because of the time. It was in the 90s. No, it was so real. And I saw this one, I must have seen one of these episodes on one of these disclosure documentaries where they interviewed the lady who worked the emergency lines in the area, like just the emergency, like 911.
Yeah, the dispatch woman.
Right. And she said, and it was in the papers that they didn't receive any calls, like hardly anybody saw it. Anybody that you're hearing talking about it is full of crap. And she's like, no, we literally couldn't keep up. The phones were ringing off the hook all night long. Like people were in a panic.
There were plenty of calls.
So it's, like I said, it was a blatant cover up. It like cut and dry cover up.
Phoenix, man. All right, there was something else you wanted to cover this week, wasn't there?
Right, because last week I was unaware. So check this out.
All right, so last week, what was the date?
That was on March 18th.
All right, on March 18th.
A group called Citizens for Disclosure Now to hold a sidewalk rally in New York City to thank Senator Schumer for UFO/UAP advocacy and call for more congressional hearings. So they have issued the following announcement. To show appreciation for Senator Schumer's leadership on unidentified anomalous phenomena, transparency, and to demand more congressional hearings with whistleblowers, Citizens for Disclosure Now will hold a rally in front of Schumer's office in New York City on, not March 18th. This was published on March 18th. The rally was held on March 21st, 2024. So
just a little bit ago.
Yeah, it was just last week. So it says, please join us as we thank Schumer for his work and request his continued support for our right to know the truth, which we totally support here on Earthling Entertainment. So shout out to those guys. That's awesome.
You can't handle the truth, Ryan.
I know. That's why I'm here. Because I need support of you.
Support. So yeah, man, freaking good disclosure discussion. It's
Thank
really
you.
nice that if anyone out there is standing up for disclosure, like that senator, that we show them support, because a lot of time people just whine and bitch about politics. So if someone's doing something you like, do the opposite. Come on, throw a compliment now and again.
I agree.
Yes. All right, guys. So we reached that point where we are going to jump into the entertainment section of Earthling Entertainment.
Oh yeah.
So there's some news. George Lucas is sharing his opinion as to Star Wars and Disney, and basically Disney stock has gone down a lot the last few years, and a lot of the Marvel stuff isn't doing as well. And Star Wars, sometimes people will say that it's struggling. I think they're really hit or miss. I like most of it, but I don't love all of it, and I'd like to. And like I said, George Lucas and Bob Iger, who is the CEO of Disney, both have opinions on this. So here you go, Ryan.
All right. So this comes from the Hollywood Reporter. It says George Lucas backs Disney and Bob Iger in proxy fight. Quote, creating magic is not for amateurs.
Shots fired.
Dude, right? The filmmaker, Star Wars creator, and Disney shareholder released a statement in support of the company and its CEO on Tuesday morning. So this report was made March 19th, 2024. There's a disturbance in the Force, and George Lucas wants to help correct the problem. The Star Wars and Indiana Jones filmmaker is weighing in on the Walt Disney Company's ongoing proxy fight with activist investors. And he is throwing his support firmly behind CEO Bob Iger and Disney's board. So this is his quote. Creating magic is not for amateurs. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my longtime admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership, Lucas said in a statement Tuesday. When Bob recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better.
That's because the CEO that was in between Bob Chapek, yeah, he was the guy who made all the Disney parks like super expensive and the waiting list for things, and that was all him. He was in charge of Disney parks, and now he almost drove Disney into the ground. So Bob Iger's only been back for about a year, and he's been trying to right the ship.
Right. Yeah. So he continues, I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record of driving long-term value. I have voted all of my shares for Disney's 12 directors and urge other shareholders to do the same. Lucas is a high-profile name, to say the least, to support Iger
I've never
and
heard
Disney.
of him.
Following similar statements of support from the family of Walt and Roy Disney's last month, not to mention the shareholder services firm Glass Lewis, which released its recommendation to support Disney board this week. Disney is facing a proxy fight against two activists, the corporate raider Nelson Peltz and Blackwell's Capital. Notably, Peltz has billions of dollars in shares pledged by Ike Perlmutter, who, like Lucas, sold his company, which was Marvel, to Disney and became a major shareholder.
How could you not become a major shareholder when you give them like here's like 1/4 of your Disney Plus content?
Literally one of the icons at the top of your content, yes. Perlmutter remained with Disney until being laid off last year. It's not clear how much Disney stock Lucas owns, but when the company acquired Lucasfilm for $4 billion,
$4 billion.
the deal included about $1.8 billion in stock.
Well, I mean, it really depends on how much stock they have out there for how big of a percentage that is.
Right. Yeah, I'm not great with stock stuff. Marvel similarly was acquired for about $4 billion, so the same. Disney has been aggressively pushing back against the activists, not only outlining a strategic game plan, but framing them as being more self-interested than pro-Disney.
It's all about money. They don't care about the brand. They just want their money.
Oh, no, it couldn't be that.
Ugh. I mean, you gotta hope that the people on top are spending the money right. Like Japan, for instance. You know, Japan, they put their money where their mouth is. What do you think of when you think of Japan, Ryan?
I love Japan.
Well, what do you think of when you think of Japan, Ryan?
I think that they
that's right,
make
giant
badass
robots.
products. Like
That's
that.
right.
I think Nintendo.
That's right, giant robots. Giant
Yes.
robots.
Okay, yes,
Thank
Gundam.
you. Thank you.
Gundam.
Well, you know, they did make a 60-foot Gundam.
I did see that.
And it actually moves and
It's
everything
amazing.
like that. Well, I hope you weren't looking forward to seeing it because you only have a short time. They are closing it. They're putting it down. They are killing the giant robot that they've made. I figure you should wait just in case there's a giant kaiju, but no.
I'll bet I'm sure they're just, they know what they're doing, so I'll bet you they're just going to make a better one. They already know what they did wrong, and they're going to dismantle him and use the parts to make a better one.
I like that. That is someone who's being very optimistic.
That's my assumption. Why wouldn't they? I mean, come on, man. If they could figure that out, I mean, that would be pretty sweet.
Well, the thing is, I want to see one that could actually run around. Like this moved, but it moved slowly, and I believe it was attached to a tether.
Like
Or
straight
something
up, go Power Rangers. That's my association with giant robots is Power Rangers.
Yeah, they're actually trying to fan cast Tommy Oliver, his daughter. They want to make his daughter, like Jason David Frank's actual daughter, play the new Green Ranger.
That'd be wonderful.
That would be wonderful. I don't even know who owns Power Rangers anymore.
Fucking
'cause
rest in peace,
I
brother.
know Saban owned Power Rangers,
Yeah.
and then they sold it to Hasbro, and then I don't know if they sold it to Netflix or Hasbro made a deal with Netflix. And then at one point in the early 2000s, Disney owned it. Like, I'm just saying, as far as a franchise is concerned, Power Rangers are a bit of a whore.
Nothing got better than the VR Troopers, though.
The VR troopers. You know what? It's funny because like anytime there's something popular, there's imitations. Because there was, like you said, VR troopers. Do you remember?
And it was Saban. It was the same company.
Well, yeah. And do you remember Big Bad Beetleborgs?
Oh my lord, I do.
Big Bad Beetleborgs. They had like the
my
weird
God,
Jay
you
Leno Frankenstein.
You just unlocked like such a memory. Wow.
They all lived in a haunted house. There was a werewolf guy and a mummy guy. That was
oh
like,
my God. I could hear the song.
yeah.
Dude, that's funny.
I'm just saying, our childhood was the best. I'm sure every kid thinks their childhood was the best, but the 90s were fun.
They were they were awesome. I am very nostalgic for the 90s. Speaking of nostalgia, I've got something here I wanted to bring up. I like to talk music every now and then. I really like music. I've been in a few bands myself, but I found this
Great
cool
bands. He actually released a full-length album a year or two ago with his metal band.
last
Please,
year.
plug
actually.
it.
Thank
Plug
you.
it.
It was thank you. It's a silence. Think asylum and silence. Cram it together at the Y. We released our album last year, which is called Endanger Us All.
Endanger us all.
Our claim to fame was all of our music videos. So
They had a music video for every single song.
just about every song. I think we only missed a couple.
Yeah, go on YouTube, check it out, and if you like it, buy the album.
Thank you, Joe.
Or at least stream it.
But no. So I thought this was cool. I found this really. This is from Ultimate Guitar. They had this neat article. One of their guys just 3 days ago. It says 10 years ago, music news in 2014. And in my opinion, it feels like 2015 was when the world just went into chaos. So it's interesting
That
to
was
see.
2016, but continue.
But yeah, like so, I'm thinking like that. So it's cool to hear from the before times.
The long, long ago.
So I'm only gonna like cover a couple of these that I thought was interesting. Like awards. The 2014 Grammys awarded Record of the Year and Album of the Year to Daft Punk, who had a massive hit with "Get Lucky." They have like a whole interview and stuff here on their website. Like I said, this is Ultimate Guitar.
Daft Punk was what I know about them is they were two French guys. They were EDM artists, and they did the entire soundtrack. Not the soundtrack, was it? They scored Tron Legacy, the sequel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they always wore helmets, so like you never knew what they looked like.
It seems like electronic music does that a lot, isn't there?
It's like an artist thing, right? It's like, it's more about the music than me.
Yeah, there was I forget the guy's name, but something Mouse who did that too.
Yeah, Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse. Yeah, right, yeah.
And also Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus took home the MTV Video Music Award for Best Video.
I remember that was the first time I was like, "Oh, this Disney star is no longer a Disney star. Now she's being, a singer of her own right." Because Wrecking Ball, everyone went crazy because she was naked, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, you just were in Hannah Montana. What are you doing?"
It was a big deal, and you think
I mean,
about
it's
it.
not like they showed anything, but they had like the side of her body.
It's hard accepting that we're all growing up. Like I remember like my little cousin, who were young girls who were really into Hannah Montana, and then you see that, and it's just like, whoa.
My buddy, our buddy Jeff, surprisingly, I don't know why, really secretly loved watching Nickelodeon around that time. So he watched Hannah Montana and Danny Phantom and all those shows. He's up on stage.
Jeff was one of a kind.
Yeah, he's up on stage and he's going like, "I'm gonna kill you like a serial killer. I got an ice pick. I'm gonna rip open your flesh."
He was a horrorcore rapper.
And then he's gonna go home and be like, smoke a joint and watch Danny Phantom.
And
Love that kid.
And couldn't have been a sweeter person. He was the sweetest kid. But
Right.
There's other crazy stuff here. Like
Keep going.
So this was a big one. So I don't know how much you know about the band As I Lay Dying, but there was a huge thing.
So much.
So I'm gonna probably butcher his name, but Lambesis gets a mulligan is what this section is called. In February of 2014, As I Lay Dying singer Tim Lambesis pled guilty to felony solicitation of murder after attempting to hire an undercover police officer to murder his ex-wife. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but was released on parole in 2016, like you said, the craziest year. He filed a lawsuit against 2 California correctional facilities for gross negligence for not allowing him to have anastrozole, a medication he was taking to fight withdrawals from steroids. Since his release, his love life has seen some ups and downs as well. He married Amanda Dubord in April of 2017.
Why would you marry someone who got
Bro.
committed for like trying to
Bro.
kill their ex-wife?
I remember seeing when he shared like the picture of them, everybody was like, "Run, bitch, run!"
Not a good sign.
They divorced, surprisingly, in 2020.
I
And,
really thought it'd work out for those
and then
kids.
the bassist married Danny Clara in 2022.
So just another chick who's like, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Well, let's face it, he's hot. But anyways,
Is he?
yeah, he's pretty attractive.
Let me
for-
see.
for
Hold
a
on, let
dude.
me see.
Here, he's a good looking. He's not an ugly dude.
I don't know. I wouldn't wet my panties, but that's just me.
But however, in 2019, he resurrected, sort of, As I Lay Dying, and they are still together today, and they do still tour. Now,
Hey,
but I know
separate the art from the artist, man. He could be a great musician without being a good person.
he definitely murdered his audience.
Oh,
But definitely, if we
Was
were
it-
going to put
did he attempted murder his audience?
right, so we would put this in the dumbass category if this was in the vault.
Well, you know what? We've already done it. Sorry. I've already the winner's murder. The winner was 6. Do you think we're gonna get 6 more dumbasses? Maybe it's the music industry. Jump in.
All right, so I like this one too because I remember this was a huge deal. I remember everybody being like, "Get this shit off of my playlist." 2014 was the year that U2, released their Songs of Innocence album. If you own an iPhone 6, you know that the album was preloaded into iTunes, prompting many people to Google. I remember it was like the biggest Google search like they had for a while, how to remove it from their phone. This was a unique way to release the album. Unfortunately, it wasn't as well received as the band or the brand would have hoped.
You know what that reminds me of is there was this movie that was made by Lonely Island called Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. And in that movie,
It's a great name.
it is Andy Samberg's character basically released his album on appliances. So when you opened up the fridge or you like used the toaster, his songs would play.
That's amazing. That's brilliant.
It didn't go well for the character.
Aw.
And that's right, guys. If you want to see a goofy comedy, if you're a fan of like those fake biopics, something like Walk Hard, you'd really like it. So it's starring Andy Samberg and the rest of Lonely Island, and it's called Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping.
I gotta see that. I love him. All right, this is the last one I've got, and I think this is very relevant actually because there has been a lot of controversy around Spotify and how they pay their people. I'm doing this right off the cuff here. I know that they literally pay 0.008 cents on the stream. That is how much they pay artists. I've done the math. It's insane. In order to get like $1,000, the amount of streams you need is astronomical. Like it's
Well,
really
if
crazy.
you're Taylor Swift or someone like that and can sell out stadiums.
And
I
that's,
mean,
I'm glad you mentioned Taylor Swift because she stayed off the platform until recently. And it was basically released that, oh, she's making way more per stream
yeah,
because they wanted it.
because they wanted her, right? And she negotiated a good deal. Well, you know what they say, man? It's not show friendship, it's show business.
So here's the article. Spotify experienced rapid growth in 2014. Between May of 2014 and December of 2014, the platform grew from 40 million users, including only 10 million paying, to 60 million users, including 15 million paying. That's a lot. That's a huge increase in less than a year.
There's some millions there.
The growth was not without controversy. Oh my gosh, look at you. Taylor Swift famously spoke out against the platform, blaming it for poor album sales. After all, if you can get the music for free on Spotify, why buy an album anywhere else?
You know what's funny is my wife constantly tells me we're a Swiftie household. It's not like I listen to Taylor Swift, but my wife does. So I'm lately learning way more than I should. And then with the combination of her dating that football player and he went to the Super Bowl,
Travis Kelce.
it's just been like a year of way more information than I ever wanted to know about this artist.
And, you know, her being just like the number one news pop star ever was not on my bingo sheet. Like, I did not think, nothing against Taylor. I just always thought she was just another pop artist.
Dude, her tour literally stimulated the accommodation.
Isn't it insane? Well, yeah, that's easy when it's thousands of dollars per ticket from scalpers.
Yeah, yeah.
My God.
You know who really made out? Carl.
Dude, Carl is a jerk, and we need to stop all the Carls in the world from scalping because it's BS, man.
It is true. The secondhand tickets sometimes are outrageous.
But it says here the controversy also extended to how musicians would be compensated for their music appearing on the platform, a debate that still rages on today. And I've got a little anecdote to add. They made the announcement, I remember it was last year, that everybody was kind of ticked about. Basically, if you don't get, and I don't know what the exact number is, I want to say it's like 4,000 streams a year or something like that. If you don't at least get that many, they're not going to pay you at all now.
Well, damn. That sucks. It's kind of like YouTube, though. At the beginning, like how people made money off the ads and other things, and then it keeps changing, and then they keep adding different stipulations, and then it's about this and that. Like back in the day, they cared how many people streamed. Now, like for us, what matters is downloads. Which reminds me, if you want to support our show, the best way to do so is to download the episodes on wherever you listen to our podcast.
I started listening to checking in on our stuff on Audible. It comes in nice and clear. I love using Audible, so you can download it's there.
I like Apple Podcasts and Spotify personally, even though
I do Spotify too.
Yeah, very good.
Even
stuff.
though we talk shit.
I didn't talk shit.
I do.
You did.
Well, it's don't get me wrong.
You're an artist. It makes sense.
I'm not talking shit even because it's like I don't think I understand it fully enough to really have that great of an opinion on it. All I'll say is I can tell we're not there yet where it should be. I think there should be a better happy medium here between what musicians get paid on these kind of platforms, and but like I said, who the F am I? I'm not sure, but
You're Ryan Lang, the most talented vocalist in the metal community.
So the end of our entertainment section is I wrote it. It's a audio drama, and enjoy.
Hey, I'm wondering if you can help me. I seem to find myself in quite a mess here. Truthfully, I'm not sure whether I'm lost, trapped, or being held captive. Probably be easier to explain if I was certain of which one. Now, I don't want to leave you out-headed, nor do I have time to yarn away for too long. Still, it's probably best if I start from the beginning. I was riding through northern Wyoming to a small settlement that is little more than a bone orchard. For whatever reason, the town dried up before ever getting a proper name. Few folks that still live there refer to it as Stillbend. I rode in about an hour after dawn. A few folks on the street leered at me as I surveyed the town.
Look at her.
No doubt marveling at how improper I look. If a woman not riding side saddle wasn't strange enough, the fact that I had the gall to wear what they perceived to be men's clothing really caused a stir with these 10-cent men. If the town was left dying on my last visit, now it looked like crowbait. Besides, for the handful of people poking around, the only signs of life that I could see was coming from the half-dilapidated saloon at the center of Main Street. The music pouring out of that place was in stark contrast to the decaying ruins of this once booming prospecting camp. I tried to pay it no mind as I walked over to the hoosgow. Well, what in the... When I got to the board, there wasn't a single bounty posted. Normally, that would be all she wrote, but I figured I better step in and see, just in case. What? Huh. Ugh. Oh, I was fit to be tied. The place was deserted. There wasn't a sheriff, deputy, or jailbird in sight. Oh, hell! From the looks of it, the law left this town to the wolves. I can't say I was too surprised, but problem was, no law meant no lawbreakers, and No lawbreakers meant no bounties. Suddenly, I found myself in a real predicament. I needed to find some paying work before I ended up like the rest of the coffee boilers around these parts. I decided to trot over to the saloon. It seemed to me that if there were any work to be found, it would be there. I about swallowed my heart when I saw the saloon was about as dead as the rest of the town. Took all I had not to air out my lungs right then and there, although that could bring the type of attention that would make an already queer sight such as myself unemployable amongst this lot. I noticed the bartender staring at me. He gave me a short nod. I returned the gesture and headed over to the bar.
Howdy. Whiskey?
Just an Adam's ale. Thanks. I couldn't help but notice y'all ain't got any bounties posted.
Well, Missy, I suppose that's because no one's been tending that post for a few months now. Sheriff Brown cleared out the place with his 2 girls. Then the 3 of them got to wiggle on out of here. Right around the time the troubles began.
Before I could inquire as to what new thing could have happened that would still be considered troubles compared to what has already come to pass here, we were interrupted by a familiar voice.
Now, do my eyes deceive me, or is that there Jenny Lang roosting at my bar?
It was Cheryl Lamont, a working girl I met a few years back while in the midst of a manhunt in the surrounding area. Her story was sad, but not uncommon for women in her position. Poor girl was widowed young, forced to dance the cooch to keep food in her belly. Like you might expect, one thing led to the other, and soon young Cheryl found herself a permanent resident of the McShane Saloon. Hey there, Cheryl.
It is you! My dear girl, it's been too long. What brings you to this godforsaken place?
Just making my way across the state, picking up work as I go. Usual. Unfortunately, your barkeep here has just informed me that Stillben's well has gone dry, so to speak.
Ain't that the truth?
It's a shame, really.
Well, if the whole thing is a bust, why are you two still here?
Cripes, Jen. Where would I go?
Wherever you want. Cheryl just looked at me a little sadly and shrugged. She would never leave. For the same reason she stayed after her husband died. The girl is rooted. For better or worse. I gave her a solemn nod of recognition. No need to make her say it out loud. I let her off the hook and turned my attention back to the barkeep. What about you? What's your excuse for not turning tail? The man threw up his arms and started gesturing around the saloon.
You're standing in it. This place is all I have to my name. If I could pop out every board and pick up every stone and take it with me down yonder, I'd done it years ago. Anyone with the means to leave already has. No. I'm afraid the town's fate will be our fate. We're all stuck, like a hair in the butter.
We're damned is what we are. Have you told her about the troubles yet?
Just about, too. Before you came down here with that $5 grin of yours.
All right, enough is enough. Will you two stop wobbling your jaws and get to it? What exactly are these troubles?
Not what? Who?
The man in black.
He ain't no man.
Cheryl here thinks we got ourselves a genuine devil. But I reckon you and I know better. He's a man, all right. Wicked, nonetheless.
He's been coming around for a while now. Always at night, always alone. At first, we paid him no mind. It's not entirely uncommon for folks to wander in on their way to someplace else.
Just as likely he was a waddy. That's what I thought.
Mrs. Claiborne was the first to spot his true nature. According to her, the man walked straight into her barn and slaughtered 3 of her cattle that first night.
Folks rustling cattle isn't anything new.
You don't understand. He ripped those poor creatures apart.
I wasn't there, but I heard the screams. The next morning, I saw the mess. You know, I think he was doing it just for fun.
It happened again and again, just like that, every night.
When he ran out of steers, he started coming after us.
And you all have been sitting back, watching this happen this whole time?
Of course not. Samuel and a few of his boys set up an ambush a few weeks back.
And, well, I think it's pretty clear how that turned out.
The man never enters anyone's home, you understand? If your doors are shut and your windows are closed, he leaves you alone. I guess that's how we've all learned to live with it. With no more livestock around, things have been relatively quiet.
Maybe he doesn't barge in, but he'll watch you. Even with everything sealed up tight, I've seen him peering in at me from outside. He'll stand there all night, staring. I think he's the devil come to damn this place for all its wicked greed during the rush.
Now, I'm not superstitious, and I doubted very much that there was anything going on. Except maybe a crazy person, pushing his luck in an already bad situation. Still, Cheryl's eyes seemed to speak a truth my mind couldn't quite wrap itself around yet. So, I'd assume you'd all about sell the shirt off your back to get rid of this trouble. Am I right?
Ma'am, if you could somehow rid us of this man, I'll give you 25% stake in the card game we got going here. Ain't much traffic coming through lately. Even so, you're looking at quite a payout in short measure.
I don't know, Shug. Lord knows you're fast with that shooting iron, but I'm not so sure you should crawl his hump.
Let me worry about that. You're expecting him tonight?
Yes, ma'am. He strolls in around midnight, and I doubt very much that this evening will be the exception.
Well, let's not hang fire then. I set up shop on the stoop of the sheriff's station. I've done this kind of thing dozens of times, but Cheryl's take on this man had me spooked. I feel a lot better once this job was done. Like the man in black was in tune to my silent wish. He suddenly appeared on the horizon. The dark figure was backlit by the full moon. He moved with intent, walking straight with a steady pace. He stared forward as he moved, not distracted by any of his surroundings, just strolling ever forward towards Main Street. Soon, he was right in front of me. Cheryl was truthful about one thing. There was something dark about this man. Whether he didn't notice me or chose to ignore it, he passed by the sheriff's station without even looking over. I let him go a few paces before I noticed he was headed for my horse, hitched up just past the old hotel. Realizing if I didn't intervene, this man would happily make a meal of the poor animal, I got up and headed into the street to meet him. Hey there, stranger. I don't think we met. The two of us faced off about 20 paces from each other. The shadows must have been playing tricks because his eyes looked black as oil. He never actually acknowledged my words, nor did he respond to them. At least not in the way you'd expect a man to react. No, this was more like the gaze of a bobcat, staring down its next meal. Before I knew it, he dug for his cannon. He let that lead plumb fly. He was fast. Normal gal would find herself pushing daisies after a shot like that. Luckily, I ain't your normal gal. I managed to dodge to the left just in time to save my life. Fortunately, not my skin. That blue whistler grazed my neck as it flew by. I lost a little bit of blood, but it wasn't deep enough to strike anything vital. I pulled my six-shooter as fast as my hands and my heart would let me, and I fired. My aim was true. The bullet soared straight and landed right between the man in black's eyes. And I knew he was dead straight off. But it was as if his body refused to accept it. He stood there, swaying for a moment. A small river of smoke escaped from the bullet hole and dissipated into the air before his lifeless shell finally collapsed. Ha! So much for the devil. I headed over to him when suddenly his body began to have a fit. He was shaking something fierce, convulsing. His back violently arched to the point where he practically threw himself into the air. That's when I noticed the dark blood beginning to bubble up his throat and out of his mouth. No, wait. It wasn't blood. It was the same color I thought I saw in the man's eyes. A pure, black, oily tone. Yeah. Oil. That's a good way to describe it. Finally, his body stopped wiggling around, but the oil just kept coming. Soon it was dripping out of his nostrils, his ears, and of course the newly mined hole in his head. It pooled around him, accumulating in value. Soon the puddle was larger than a normal human body could possibly hold. And then, the strangest thing happened. The oil began to float. Soon, in a matter of seconds, all of the oil joined the accumulating mass suspended above the ground. It continued to wiggle around as a liquid not bound by earthly laws. I just stared in awe. I mean, what would you do? About a split second before I snapped out of it and headed for the hills. The oil, the entity, did the same. Like a bat out of hell, it flew off, continuing to stay no more than 5 feet off the ground as it traveled. I was so surprised I actually let it pass me before I was able to react. Took me just a moment, but then my feet were moving lickety-split in the opposite direction towards my horse. I just happened to look down at the man in black's body as I passed. The expression on his face looked somehow unburdened, more human. I don't know who you were, but I'll get the thing that corrupted you and used you like nothing more than a puppet on a string. Oh, yes, I will. It's gonna be a hog-killing time. Yeah! I chased the nightmarish blob for a while before it finally took a hard right into the forest. I was on its tail practically the whole time, dodging trees as I went. Somehow I lost the entity after I followed it into a clearing. A few deer became spooked by my sudden appearance and ran off into the woods from the other side of a small pond. I slowed my breathing as best I could and just sat there for a while, waiting, listening, searching with my eyes, even though the task was futile. You can't follow the trail of something that doesn't touch the ground. Suddenly, there was a loud, horrifying death cry coming from just beyond the tree line across the pond. It was a deer, no doubt. Any child who has bagged his first buck could describe that sound to you. That terrible, heartbreaking sound that both fills your heart with sorrow while simultaneously making your stomach rumble. Just a moment after the deer stopped screaming, it came walking out of the woods. As it moved slowly into the moonlight, I got the briefest glimpse of the black oil entering the deer through its eyes. Its eyes went completely black. The entity had taken control. I slowly reached for the knife I had strapped to my ankle, trying my best to get it before the beast charged. As it happened, we both moved at just about the same time. Ha! It was on top of me before I could do much of anything. I managed to avoid the antlers, but I still ended up on the ground. A second later, and I was being viciously trampled on by the hooves of this possessed animal. I was under it now, moments away from my own death. But luckily for me, the fates were on my side. With all my might, I tried to force my knife into the beast's heart, not knowing for sure if it would do a lick of good. This thing's last vessel was taken down by a bullet, so it stands to reason my knife could take care of the job. I got to my feet as the deer staggered away from me. I watched in disbelief as it briefly wagged its snout, as if shaking off an insignificant knock on the head. Then it turned its attention back on me. I got into a better stance in anticipation of the next attack. This time, the entity got the better of me. It struck me like a freight train. The deer's antlers pierced both my shoulders and lifted me off my feet. Instead of throwing me to the side, the deer continued to run forward before leaping into the air and diving straight down into the small pond. It's kind of hard to explain what happened next. As the entity dragged me deeper and deeper below the water, it almost seemed as though the pond was bottomless. Then, it was as if the entire world was turning on its axis. Suddenly, instead of going deeper, it was as if I was re-emerging from a different pool on the other side. Luckily, somewhere along the line, I managed to detach myself from the deer's antlers. After we both reached the surface of the water, we independently swam to the opposite sides of the pond shore. I was somewhere else now. I've never seen a place so dark. This was hell. The Bible has been lying to folks because there was not a fire in sight. I quickly regained my composure and turned to see my enemy. The deer was lying dead on the shore, just on the other side of the pond. Good riddance. I dragged my waterlogged and my bleeding body to a sitting position, began to survey my new surroundings. I was still in a forest, only this one was different. The trees surrounding the pond all seemed to be of equal diameter, and paired together like an endless sea of identical twin plants. There was no bark as far as I could tell. In fact, the surfaces of their trunks appeared to look more like thick rubber posts than anything else. I turned my head up to examine the branches, only to find that all of the trees disappeared into the darkness above. It was only possible for me to see maybe 10 feet up before the endless sea of black. At that moment, it became painfully apparent that there were no stars in the night sky, nor was the moon anywhere to be found. The sound of the deer convulsing, just like the men in black, drew my attention away from the sky. If this thing was still looking for a fight, I was in trouble. It would be a miracle if I could even get to my feet. Like before, the black oil began oozing out of the deer's corpse. Only this time, instead of forming a floating, shapeless blob, the entity took on a humanoid, anthropomorphic shape. Once its metamorphosis was complete, a featureless, jet-black entity stood on the other side of the pond in full defiance of God and nature. I drew my knife in preparation of the entity's final attack. It didn't move. If the thing had eyes, I would say it was staring at me. Although, who knows? I was tired. I was bloody, but I wasn't beaten yet. Well, what are you waiting for? Get it over with already! Despite not having a mouth, the thing began to laugh. Then, as if in a nightmare, the entity started to grow. He rose into the air, higher and higher, while his limbs and his waist increased in diameter. It wasn't long before I could no longer see above the entity's midsection. His top half disappeared into the darkness, just like the tops of the trees surrounding us. The trees! I frantically studied the forest around me. To my horror, the true depth of my bad box was revealed. Oh my God! They're legs! They're all legs! As if the devil himself meant to confirm my nightmare. A large flash of green lightning above illuminated the giant silhouettes of all the entities surrounding me. I was nothing but an ant looking up at Legion. All I could do was scream, one by one, in short succession. All of the massive creatures around me bent over. It was impossible to tell what was darkness and what was them, as I was soon engulfed in the oily liquid. Oh, Jesus, Cheryl, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. I followed my pride all the way into hell. And now, it seems as though my tale at its end. Then, there was silence. When I next opened my eyes, I was here. Wherever here is. If a place could look like no place, that's where I am. I'm not really standing. I'm not really floating. My surroundings could best be described as a void, although it's not black or filled with light. Truthfully, not sure words exist that would be able to accurately describe the true absence of everything. I guess none of that really matters now. Please, Cheryl, if you're out there, if you can somehow hear me, I need you, please. I'm afraid.
I never did see my friend Jenny again. Not after that night. Not the real Jenny, anyway. At least I will never forget her. Her face stares back at me from the street every night. The same sweet smile with her new black eyes. I told you, we're damned.
Like the episode, bud?
I love the episode. I was very excited.
I was so excited.
Like, for real, though. That was fun. We're going to have to do more of those. If you have a tale that you would like to add to the vault, please. The best way to hit us up, honestly, message us on Facebook. We're pretty quick on responding there. Shoot us a message. Shoot me a message if you're my friend on Facebook. I would love to hear from you because we like to hear from you guys, and we appreciate you. Please download the episodes like we said before.
Yeah, honestly, that is the best way to support us. So whether it's Spotify, podcasts on Apple, just download the episodes.
If you can't, if you're like, oh, I can't listen to it right now, and you're like, I'll get to it later. Just
download it anyway.
Download it first. Get to it later, whether or not, but because the download really is actually what helps us out.
But yeah, guys, from all of us here at Earthling Entertainment, see ya.
Goodbye.
The Nightmare Duel. Written by Joe Wakefield. Narrated by Lily Fisher. Barkeeper played by Jesse Lee Pacheco. Cheryl played by Sarah Marquis. Music by Darren Curtis. Sound by Luke Fisher.